All right. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good now moment. Welcome to Liberating Life Through Relationship, the Powers of Love. Jason Michael.
So good to be here.
Heather Grace.
I'm Heather Grace. We are excited about our conversation today because it's been such an incredibly hot topic. It feels like this last week there was just this mushroom cloud that grew so fast of a specific AI app that creates avatars. And so many people have engaged with it. And also, so many people have had very strong opinions about it from all different perspectives. And it seems like it's another one of those lines in the sand that's being drawn with how people perceive engaging with AI. And so we have an amazing creator and a friend that we've had for a really long time via Facebook, Brendon Culliton. And we're excited about this conversation and just talking about creativity and our engagement with technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, a little bit about Brendan. He's our up north in the great north in Canada. I love Canadians and Australians generally, in my experience, have been some of the best people on the planet. Just my personal opinion, experience. I've DJ'd and worked with a lot of Canadians and Australians, and they tend to carry a somewhat similar energy, which is very interesting. But Brendan, we've actually shared years ago. We were all part of an admin team of the 1111 Awakening Code, and I became privy to Brendan and his work early on in this great awakening that we've been having in the social media world. And he was out there doing free hugs and just really out there on the cutting edge of consciousness, and we found ourselves in very similar circles and tribes and communities. And he's been on the cutting edge of not only the awakening journey and coming into the power and the presence of who we are, and that love is that greatest power, and that we are one family, but also on technology, on the cutting edge of how to use technology and how it's going to support our evolution of consciousness. And so this is a really powerful conversation. But a little bit about Brendan. He's a conscious media creator who's been studying and learning and using AI art technology actually for a while, which puts him in a really interesting place right now of this conversation. That's why we're so grateful that he's here with us. He's got an Instagram page with his beloved Lacey, and they create what's called Awakening Ascension Portraits, actually Ascension Portraits, and we'll have that link. That link's actually in our post here. But it's portraits of community members to help them connect with the energy of their higher self and their multidimensional magic, to help inspire and empower them. And we've been to his page and we've seen what he's been doing. Some friends of ours that he's done.
Yeah.
I think he did Bliss Prema's work. I'm not sure, we're going to get into that, but
I think that was the first. Honestly, you did Bliss, right?
To be honest, I don't think that might have been me. That might have been somebody else. So.
Okay. Well, whatever it was like, I think that was the first time that I ever saw kind of this genre of art and it being used for somebody. And it definitely ignited. I think we all have had that feeling of it ignited something inside of seeing, the reflection in a mythic kind of a way. Is really has a powerful potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is all stimulated and activated by a choice, that I made personally last week when I saw something come up, and I was like, and mind you, I've been playing with new profile pic, various Snapchat pics, various creative ways to make your image look like something fun and silly and dare I say sexy. It's all just play and fun and creativity. And one morning I woke up and said, I want to do that. And I use this app, and we're not going to really talk about the specific app. We're not here to publicize this app, but we're here to have a conversation about what transpired and what is underneath it. So,
and to lift up Brendan's art, because just knowing that you are using this technology really specifically and intentionally, and particularly as a couple, that you guys engage with this work together is another really important dynamic of all of this. So welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's again, it's an honor to just be a part of this conversation and be invited. And thank you guys for the space that you guys have been holding over the years. It's it's amazing how quickly the years have gone by. I still remember just like the circumstance of us kind of connecting online, and then there was like that house party in California where I just happened to be in town, and we kind of
So
saw
fun.
each other in the living room. We're like, wait a second, like
That's
we know each
right.
other. And and
Yeah.
then we connected, and that was when we connected in person. And and just following each other online since then, and just seeing you guys do the work, it's it's equally appreciated as well. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. It's I've had a lot of conversations with Lacey about AI and the ethics of AI art and the potential of it, and how we can use it as a tool to help elevate and shift consciousness. So it's exciting to just be in more of these circles, because I think in many ways some of the most important things that we can do right now is talk about it, is have discussion, because I think a lot of people have opinions. Maybe there's a lot of education that's still taking place. So I think in us doing this, what we can also do is kind of like move things forward in that positive direction, opposed to just kind of like putting a stake in the ground and saying this is our opinion and this is it. And a lot of people have been doing that, but I think there's more for us to kind of explore, because with AI art as a tool and everything like that, that's exactly what it is. It's a tool. It really comes down to who's using it, how we're using it, the intention of what is behind the purpose of us using it. And so that's where, for me and Lacey, back when AI art started like coming around back in the summer, was kind of like when different programs and software were becoming available and different communities were starting to grow. For us, it immediately became something we were attracted to, because it became this way to create a bridge between kind of like ideas that are floating within the etheric realms within our imagination, and to be able to like bring them in front of us. And it became very exciting. The fact that it was so instantaneous was so powerful for us. And immediately we're just like, whoa, like, how can we use this to tell story? And then, that became a big thing for us. And we were starting to use it with some story concepts we were working on. We were using it for creating imagery of our art, of our dreams. I know a lot of people have been doing that, where, you would have a dream, and to spend a month trying to articulate that, or if you don't have the skills as an artist, can be next to impossible. And so suddenly, if you were to say, even just yesterday, Lacey had a dream, and it was about like this like otherworldly planet with like these alien whales. And then I was just like let's type this into Midjourney, and then out of it created this beautiful image. And we got talking about the new Avatar movie, and we're like, whoa, this is like right on par with that. And so again, just as an example there, to say like, here's a dream I had, here's the context, here's the characters, here's the scenario, here's the setting, to put that into the process of AI technology, and then to be able to receive something so instantaneous is such a powerful thing. And in a lot of ways, and I'll say this and pass back to you guys, the way we see it, we want to be on the cutting edge of this technology, because it is evolving so rapidly. And it's honestly just a stepping stone to what's right around the corner. For us as people who are avid dreamers, lucid dreamers, just conscious creators in general, for us, this is something where, we can see where this technology is going. And it's literally moving us in towards this ability to kind of like digitize the sensation of lucid dreaming in real time, where nowadays, with the process of creating AI art and everything like that, there's still very much the human interface of using our hands and a keyboard and the laptop and the apps and everything like that. But eventually it's going to get to the point where, it's going to be like almost akin to a virtual reality, where essentially you'll think something into existence. Your thought will be the prompt, and you'll say like, like beautiful lighthouse surrounded by angels or something like that. It can be arbitrary, it can be specific. And then the technology interfacing with you becomes an extension of that. And so we're creating worlds, we're creating scenes. And so it's been really exciting. And then just as context, again, when in the beginning of the end of September, or even the end of October, actually, it hasn't even been that long, I was introduced to a new concept within the AI technology, because within AI technology, again, you can create characters, you can create scenes, and there's kind of some major ones. There's Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E. Those are kind of the main ones. And again, all of these are accessible to people. You can access them. Some of them are a little bit more convoluted, a little bit more complex. Not everyone's going to have the technical know-how to sort of figure it out and stuff like that. But within one of these, there was a process where I saw a video on a YouTube channel, and they were basically talking about how they would, like bring their likeness into the AI art creation process. And they were just kind of using it in a very exploratory way, where it was just very experimental, and it was, they were just kind of having fun with it. And then I was just like, whoa, like, I want to learn how to do that. And so, I spent an entire evening where I just kind of came home, and I'm just like, I'm going to commit myself to figuring out how to do this too. I want to see if I can do this. And then it got to the point where like literally like 5-6 hours later, I did it. And I'm just like, holy crap. And again, it was very kind of convoluted. It wasn't just upload, click, produce. It was like connecting things and Google Colabs and documents and resources and code and stuff that, again, the average user would just be like, sorry, I don't have the time to deal with that. But in the process of learning that, suddenly I had this resource where, again, at that point, I was just kind of starting to play around and, I was like, oh, okay, can I make myself into like an elf character? And I was using my own likeness. And I'm like, whoa, like this works. And then from there, it's been, learning the language of the AI art technology to be able to refine this process, to be able to articulate results with more accuracy, to really be able to interface our will with the technology to produce something with intention. And then as that happened, again, that's where I kind of, within less than like a day, it sort of clicked for me, like spirit kind of downloaded to me. And I was just like, wait a second, like there's a need here. Like there's a service that can be provided. Not everyone's going to figure out what I just spent an entire 24 hours trying to learn. If I can do something for this, and if I can walk them through the instructions as like an ambassador, and I can say, hey, all you guys got to do, send me those images, kind of like what with the Lensa app, where, it's just like you upload and then you guys just upload it and then you don't know what happens, and then out come images.
Right.
In this case, people would send me images. I would instruct them on the process. And then I would basically say, like, tell me a little bit about some of the themes you want incorporated. And then from there, that's when I bring in the human touch and the manual articulation and the prompts and the code and everything like that. And then with that, suddenly out of it grew Ascension Portraits, where I'm like, okay, let's do this for a few friends to get started. And then with that, it quickly became something where I was just like, whoa, like there are going to be people who are going to want this for multiple reasons. It's something that people can use for business purposes, but it's also something that can be very empowering and also very healing. A lot of people who may sort of, struggle with sort of seeing themselves in a certain light, for us to visually see it, because as humans, we're such visual learners. We're visual storytellers. And so for us to see that version of ourselves in front of us, and for it to almost be kind of like a reflection of our multiverse version of ourselves, or our higher self, or our avatar, inner magic, however we're interpreting it, there's been multiple people who I've done portrait packages for, and I kind of walk them through a process where I'm like, before I send them the images, I talk to them just through Messenger, and it's kind of like an individual intentional ceremony where I'm just like, okay, like I'm going to send these to you. Take a moment to center yourself, just kind of meditate into this moment. And then you let me know when you're ready. And then they'll be like, okay, I'm ready. All right, here we go. And I'll send like 3 images, and then they'll just kind of like take their time to really just breathe them in. And most often than not, the response is, wow, like, whoa. And again, this was before Lensa app was even a thing. And now we've seen a million of them, and it's kind of got diluted and stuff like that. But even still, it's been really powerful to see people, and some people they've told me, it's like, whoa, this like that brought me to tears. This was like the best gift I've ever received for myself. So, with that, it's really empowering to know that what we're doing, as much as it is a business and supporting my family, and we're entrepreneurs, and we found this new source of revenue and income that's supporting us and serving in the community in more ways, the way how it's serving people is very exciting. And it's also something that is demanding us to be able to continue to invest our time to keep up with this technology. Literally, in the month and a half that we've been building Ascension Portraits, a large amount of my time during the weekly process is listening to YouTube videos, studying forums, learning new techniques, and learning from other people who are doing this. Because with the AI art field, it's very community oriented. It's a lot of people who are figuring this out for the first time. So, I'm connecting with other people that are kind of doing similar things. And I'm like, how are you doing this? How are we doing this? How can I learn from you? And then with that, even just in the last couple of weeks, like my style as Lensa was becoming popular, within that same week, I was literally evolving my style to the point where now it doesn't even look like Lensa. I can still do the old format, but now this new format that I've done is kind of like, it differentiates itself from Lensa, so people can actually tell the difference, and that creates more value in itself. So, but anyways, to summarize here, it's just been really powerful. And the one thing I'll just note, because I'm sure you guys would appreciate this, from what I found, is when Lacey and I started using the technology, and we approach it with a very intentional purpose, and we have we're creating a portrait package for someone, we're creating like 5 or 10 images for them, and we really kind of like connect with our guides as we do this, and we kind of connect into their guides, and we kind of understand that the technology itself can still serve as a medium for consciousness, can still serve as a medium for spirit. So what's fascinating about AI and the way that we do things is that, you create a prompt, but every time you hit enter, it's going to produce something different. And that's kind of what you see in the Lensa app. It's literally just running through a series of prompts that they've pre-coded, but that's why everyone's looks similar but different. But even still within that, it creates this channel for what we interpret as like kind of like spirit messages to be able to come through. And there's like some people that we've done and we've used like the exact same prompt that we've used with like someone else, but then we tweak it to modify it to their needs. And then it just like creates something where we're just like, whoa, like it would kind of like blow our minds. We're just like, holy crap, like that was like, where did that come from? Or the energy of this image is like so powerful. And so it gets into this idea of like, it's kind of, it's very fascinating. It's almost kind of like a phenomena of, again, kind of like spiritual energy as consciousness interfacing through the technology. And there's like this synchronicity that's still occurring. So it's really, really, really beautiful. And it's only going to keep, evolving and stuff. Anyways, that's my blurb. So
it's so amazing.
Well, take a breath.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Take a breath.
Yeah. There's a lot there.
That's the beautiful, and that's what I love about Brendan. I've known and been part, witness. You just turn Brendan on, boom, he goes.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've been on a podcast, you can tell.
Yeah.
It's so good. Well articulated. And, I think the power of you really casting all of this in a really, I don't want to say it's beyond positive. It's a generative kind of a way, being able to, because we can't see everything inside of ourselves. Our divine imagination is still, I think, developing in some sense. We are spiritualizing, and that's a process and a practice in and of itself. My question to you would be, and that's kind of why we want to have the conversation, is have this generative side of it to be really clear and hear what is possible. And what do you see in the AI community or the experience that you've had thus far as potential pitfalls along the way? That because obviously the technology is in the hand of the user and the intention behind it. What would be some of the pitfalls that you would see or could imagine?
Interesting. Yeah. Again, because the technology itself is so new, there's a lot of discussions that haven't really taken place yet. And a lot of those discussions can go hand in hand with the ethics. And again, with this, it's like, okay, like this tool can be a runaway train if we don't kind of like steer it with ethics and stuff like that, and that's where a lot of people, the discussions have been related to like the databases that the AI is drawing references from and whether or not the artists have consented to it. And again, and I think like that's something where it's like I don't even have all the answers to that. It's kind of one of those things where one thing that's actually worth noting is that within Stable Diffusion, there's been various models that have actually come out. And from what I can tell, based on my familiarity, is that the Lensa model that is so popular, and again, like the Lensa isn't the only app that's doing this. There's literally other apps like that. Like I've seen multiple apps kind of like start offering their own kind of like magic avatars, and whether or not they're using Lensa, I'm not 100% sure. But with the Lensa, the questions of ethics and the idea of like it referencing artists that haven't consented to it, the Stable Diffusion, like the company behind this, because it is still like a company, they have money and everything like that, and they don't want to get sued and everything. There's new models that they've actually released since then that actually kind of like removed like all the prompts of artist names and stuff like that. But then within this, it's also creating space for the community to begin to kind of like create their own genres and prompts within the database. So whereas before, like something that would have been like in reference to a very particular artist that might have been like a fantasy style artist, such as like Greg Rudikowski, who's a very popular prompt that some people have probably heard of, and a lot of people only heard of it recently. Now, like kind of through Stable Diffusion 2.0 and beyond, and even through Midjourney, rather than putting in that individual artist, if you even just put in like fantasy vibes, it kind of creates something similar that's not specifically his. And so it's very interesting because with these technologies, it's almost as if like the artists and the artist styles have actually kind of become the paint, like and you take a little bit of this color and a little bit of this color and a little bit of this color, and then you kind of like put it on a canvas and it starts to become kind of its own thing. And I think that with this technology, again, you know, what I think is important is to be able to like honor the source and to either just, you know, like include like captions and tags and reference to if there is a particular artist that maybe you are trying to mimic or you are trying to stylize your stuff around, or, you know, to be able to kind of like mix and match enough styles that it creates like a new aesthetic. So it's not necessarily one or the other, but still acknowledging that, you know, we stand upon the shoulders of giants. And with any art form, it's always going to be, you know, like built upon the art that has come previously within that civilization, within that generation, within that culture. It's constantly evolving upon itself. But I think, you know, rather than just, you know, creating something and using like in the style of like Amanda Sage or in the style of Alex Gray, and then suddenly creating something and then it becomes like this thing that looks like an Alex Gray art, but it's not different enough that it kind of like, and then it starts to get into this gray space. Well, it's just like, wait a second, like, hold on, like that's, you know, that's his style, that's his aesthetic and stuff like that. You should, you know, instead of just like making something that's blatantly that style, you know, how can you maybe either find different ways to create prompts that create a similar vibe, but still look like something different, that still look like something unique. So I think for us, you know, it's very important is to be able to practice creating, you know, like new stories, to focus on creating new things. And that's where with AI I get really excited, because it's like, okay, these technologies are so powerful, you know, and me and a couple other crafters, it's just like, let's create awesome things. Like show me what you can create. Like go like create like the most epic story, go create graphic novels, go create animated new movies. And it's happening now where through the you know, the Midjourneys and the Stable Diffusion, it's actually evolving to the point where people are able to make like short films entirely created using like AI generated art. It's still kind of like janky and everything like that, but you can see how it's as a tool, it has amplified our ability to be able to tell stories, to be able to, again, kind of like bring visions to fruitions, you know, to be able to serve as well. And that's where, you know, with Ascension Portraits, for me to like manually do things in Photoshop, it just wouldn't really be possible. And there's people that have done, you know, something similar to Ascension Portraits through kind of like a classical means of using Photoshop and the manual process. And man, like the utmost respect for those people. And again, you can kind of like see like how, you know, like given the tools at the time, that's what it was. And now given these tools at the time, you know, it's just kind of like understanding that, yeah, we grow upon our past, but how can we continue to create a future that's, you know, something that's unique to us, something that's clearly not just trying to like plagiarize or mimic, but still giving honor to the source that it came from, but different in a way that, you know, it's becoming our voice. And I think we all have a unique voice. And so I think AI as a tool can become an incredibly empowering thing for the storyteller inside each of us, or the visionary inside each of us, to do it in a way where it's, you know, suddenly things are getting out in the open, and then, you know, it can just like totally, yeah, it can change the game. You know, people that don't have a background in digital artistry can suddenly use this as a way to be able to tell stories that were otherwise just, you know, like sitting in the back of their mind, so to speak. So how can we use it as a way to tell empowering stories and to create empowering art, but still, you know, carving our own path is very, very important. So
yeah,
Powerful.
well, you know, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, you are a conscious creator, brother. I mean, you are a conscious loving creator that's tapped into the creative impulse, you know, of the essence and what we call God, or what we call universe, source, intelligence. And you know, it's evident that you're doing it in a loving, ethical, you know, aware way. But when I heard Spirit whisper cosmonaut, like you're a cosmonaut. You're sitting there traveling we're at the edges of what's, you know, that exploratory. And I feel like this is the important conversation to have, whether it be technology, whether it be magic, whether it be plant medicine, whether it be just consciousness itself. We humans have a tendency to stay comfortable in our little boxes of what's safe and what is known. And there is an opportunity with anything and everything. Magic is not bad. Technology is not bad. It's not evil. AI is not bad. It's not evil. It's like a tool, like we're saying, anything can be used. You know, and there's a verse that came up in this conversation that I've been having, because we've been diving deep. I mean, I got so much judgment, so many things. It was like, whoa, I was just playing. I'm just having fun. I didn't understand the ramifications. And we're very aware of esoteric implications of what's going on with materialism and transhumanism and artificial intelligence, where it can be a trap of agreement and various things of soul harvesting and cloning and various things that can be happening. We're very well aware of that. But at the same time, there's a verse that says, to the pure, all things are pure, but to those who are corrupted and do not believe, nothing is pure. In fact, both their minds and consciousness are corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this sense of the intentionality of how you're using this tool, how you're engaging it, because here's what I know and really truly believe, and I think you're evident of that and you'll be in agreement. There's a new paradigm coming, how we're going to engage in artificial intelligence and how we can be in concert in relationship. And that's really what this is about. It's about how do we be in relationship with what is and what is coming and what is in growing, and not be scared or going, I'm gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna do plant medicine because plant medicine's bad,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or I'm not gonna engage in things outside the traditional Christian path. I don't want to go into the Eastern mysticism, or I'm not going to go into these fields because they're dangerous. And it's how do we cultivate an exploratory curiosity and not feeling the fear. And that's where I've seen you, Brendan, as I've observed you in your journey, is you're always looking to move to the outside skirts of what is normal, whatever that is, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's
shifting
really,
paradigms. Yeah.
it's, you know, I mean, that's your whole new paradigm, right? Isn't that your
Shifting
platform?
paradigm. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's all about, all of us are all about shifting paradigms. And so
Yeah.
right now, like how can AI not shift our paradigm? You
Yeah.
know, so
Mhm.
it's
Absolutely.
this is important. Yeah.
I mean, that really wasn't a question. It's just really an observation and a comment,
Agreed. Yeah.
you know, that, and a really big piece, because I too, we were in a therapy session with her, and I was really going, there's this little, you know, this little boy, this little magical child within that's going, look, I don't want to stay in the crib. I want to go outside the crib. I want to go out the confines and explore. You know, I'm not afraid to go in the dark forest and look at the creatures in there and go, hey, how are you? What's it like in here? And so there's that place where I feel like, you know, let's be clear, because there's been a lot of judgment. There's been a lot of opinions, and that's the danger of technology, in my opinion, as what's been used. Like we engage in this social media form like we wouldn't engage in person.
That's a really good, that is a crux of it for me. And I think as our dialogue has continued to, I think one of the pitfalls I see potentially is that sometimes we engage differently in our virtual worlds, whether it be on Facebook or chats or, you know, and now moving into this realm, that we engage differently in this realm than we do in our real life. And where the ethics of that for relationships, ethics of that for communities, you know, and it feels like there is a purging going on, or say a purging of the things that are maybe incongruent with how we're really showing up in the world. It's like our insides are becoming our outsides, and that they're in alignment with each other, that it's not like do as I say, not as I do. It's like, here I am in this reality, but I show up differently behind the scenes, and all of those things where the realities are obviously merging. And how do we bring those, you know, consciously into something that really is life-giving for everybody, rather than agreements that we're not really clear in, you know what I mean? You're engaging with someone that you think is this, and then they're not that. And that's where I see kind of all the ethics, the blurring of the lines. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just kind of, again, you know, like going back to stuff that even Michael Jason, what we were talking about. Sorry,
It happens all the time.
No worries. Again, some Archangel Michael vibes coming through. That's probably what it was. But anyways, what I was going to say is that, you know, like, again, I think there's a lot of education that just kind of needs to even be taking place. And I think a lot of people even come into the concept and the discussion of AI with a lot of stigma. I think they kind of have this sort of like Hollywood sort of interpretation of it being a Terminator thing, and it's destined to destroy us and everything like that. Honestly, like the technology that we're using related to the AI art creation it's probably not quite the artificial technology that some people interpret it as or assume it to be. Again, the term that's much more accurate is really just machine learning. And so again, like what makes it different is that like with this technology, it's still something that requires us to input. It requires our interaction until we hit enter on the keyboard. It's not really, it requires our interaction in order for it to be able to learn. So I mean, like the learning process of it is really just, like kind of a process of data kind of being moved around over a series of time and being organized and compartmentalized and labels and categories, and whether or not we call that intelligence, I don't necessarily think so. I think it's a learning process, but it's not necessarily intelligence. It's not like this, as everyone was using the Lensa app, that it was literally creating like a single collective conscious sentient being that was suddenly, like harvesting and accessing all of our information and stuff like that. But for me, like the conversation of AI is almost a podcast all in itself. And I think in my mind, kind of like where I differentiate is artificial intelligence for me really goes hand in hand with the concept of story. And so if you can create, like a machine that can learn, and then you create a context in which it can exist and relate through, then you start getting into this idea of, oh my goodness, is this thing sentient? For example, if you like bring home like a robot and then you turn that robot on and you've programmed that robot as a learning machine to be able to interact with its environment and be like, oh, like that's a plant, that's a child, that's like a, that's like a dog or something like that. And then it starts to kind of like interface. And then over time, just as this AI art, it's learning, it's learning about, the relationship between others. But what's different is that, with this as an individual being, it actually has like a center point as a self. Whereas like this sort of like AI consciousness that we're using through like art and everything like that, it's not like there's like one single being that's like sitting somewhere thinking all of this into existence. And so, just to kind of go back to what I was thinking is that for me, like artificial intelligence and where it's evolving really comes into play when you start to create a story through which a machine can actually learn and relate through. And then it's almost our interpretation that gives it the concept of consciousness, where, if we can see this thing and suddenly this thing becomes self-aware of its existence. And then if you were to program it in such a way where you would say like, it's like, okay, like Mr. Robot dude, like today we're going to turn you off. And it's just like, wait, like what? Like, I don't want to be turned off. I'm still learning. Suddenly, like you see a machine kind of like simulate this idea of wanting to preserve itself and not wanting to, end its own existence. And then suddenly, from our perspective, it's like, wait a second, does this thing have a soul? Like, is this thing conscious? Is this thing sentient?
Yeah.
For me, that is kind of like, that's what I see as AI. And so again, like this term AI being applied to the concept of what we're seeing through Stable Diffusion and Midjourney and the Lensa app, it's not really AI. And I think like kind of like labeling it as AI with this sort of like preconceived notion of what AI is probably bringing in maybe some misconceptions and some fueled opinions of what people think it is, because immediately people see it and be like, oh, this is something that, goes hand in hand with transhumanism. Does it? Doesn't it? Not to say it doesn't. But again, I think there's just kind of like more to the picture. But yeah, it's interesting because again, you can understand like how this technology is a stepping stone to what we are evolving into, whether it be virtual reality, augmented reality. It's not impossible to think that, in the same way that I'm crafting portraits for people in their kind of higher avatar versions of themselves, that eventually we could be crafting that as almost kind of like a 3D interface that overlays on top of someone. And then when I put my AR goggles on, I'm not just seeing you, I'm seeing you with like this like beautiful angel and like outfit and kind of like this like version of what kind of looks like comes through in the portrait and stuff. And maybe that will be not something that will just be, done for the sake of fueling the ego, but will actually be done in a way where we can actually like use it as a tool to play and to really be able to celebrate. And in the same way, you guys know this, if you go to a festival, like a conscious festival, like Lucidity or anything like that, you go there and you see people and they're dressed out, they're dressed up, they're dressed out as these kind of magical beings of themselves. And so, for me, I look at technology and I see it as a bridge. I see it as a bridge between realms. And I have to, intentionally ask, how can it be used as a bridge? Because when just kind of like left willy-nilly and stuff like that, like, yeah, you can get companies that are going to use it in a way where their drive is profit, their drive is money, their drive is kind of like studying the psychology of the human brain and understanding that, of course, people are going to want to see themselves in cool comic book avatar versions of themselves. But beyond that, like how much are we really offering them? So, even with the Lensa app, there's been some people that are like totally satisfied with what they get. And then you get some people and it's like a dice roll and they're just like, I guess these were okay. And they're kind of like a little funky and janky and stuff like that. And again, and that's where like, with what we offer through Ascension Portraits, just kind of like sell what it is that we do. Whereas instead of, paying an app $8 to maybe get a couple that you would like, this would be a chance for us to be able to be the human interface between what you want and the output that's created, to be able to steer the ship and the technology as a process, to be able to produce something that is just like, here's 5 images that are within the genres and the themes that you want. And again, and some of them are now in the new styles where it's like, it's not even just me entering in the prompts and hitting a button and saying, oh, this is a good one, this is a bad one, here, let me give you the good ones. Because that's a part of it, that's a kind of part of the process. But even still, now, as I've gotten better at using the technologies, it's where we can actually, kind of like start off with something and we're just like, that's good, it's not perfect, let's take that and let's run it through again, let's steer the ship, let's tweak it, let's modify this. And that's what I've been doing lately. It's a lot of like individual modification. It's kind of like Photoshop in a way where you can kind of like click and paste and drag and combine things. But again, it to just kind of like assume that the machine's going to create exactly what you want, not necessarily. But now, because I'm using the technology as a tool, I've gotten to the point where, and this is something I'm still practicing, where, if someone were to say like, this is a vision of what I have, can you create this? I'll say, absolutely, yes, I can, assuming it's within my realms of possibility. But even now, it's just like, I feel like if they can imagine something, I can help create it. So like, that's kind of part of my role, where you can't ask the app that, you can't tell the app exactly what you want. And you can kind of in Midjourney, you can explain scenes and you can still create cool stuff, but it's not necessarily using the technology where it's interfacing you. And not everyone has the capacity to go out of their way to like learn the techniques of how like I'm doing it with all the intricacies and stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty cool service to be able to, like work with people where they can articulate specific ideas. And then, I can help produce it with an accuracy that might be either meeting, if not, exceeding their expectations. And yeah, and then again, and with this, it's kind of also giving me the skill sets to be able to learn new ways to tell stories. And even with Ascension Portraits, it's not even just, hey, this is, like purely just to create something cool. If you look at the Ascension Portraits page, the people that are featured on the page and the people that I'm working with in the community, it has brought together like a badass community of light workers. Like that's literally like what it has been designed to do, and it's doing it. And if you go on the page and you look, and like these are all people that I individually know, and like they're all like entrepreneurs and creators and like individuals that are like out there shifting consciousness. And so the page as itself is actually becoming more of an anthology of like celebrating the different creators within our communities. And then so this goes back to even with what I've created over the years in the mythos through Paradigm Shift Central, which is essentially about bringing together a global team of light guardians and then kind of like telling that story. So for me, this is kind of like a bit of a detour, because my inspiration is leading me and telling me this technology is important. If anyone's going to figure out how to do this, why not do it? And there are other people that are doing it. I'm not the only one. And then with that, how can I kind of like bring this back into the concept of the light guardians coming together? And so this is where with the technology, you can start to imagine where it's like, like, how can we create like short videos of this? And you guys have seen some of the animation I was playing with where it was like taking my face and putting it onto my avatar character. And that's brand new. Like that's a whole new layer. And so I'm starting to just imagine this as a concept. It's something I'm going to be working on where, we're taking the Ascension Portraits with these badass kind of like avatar versions of our characters, way better than what Lensa is doing. And then again, with that, creating like animated videos where we're like having these characters come to life and speak, and then creating a video that would almost be like a montage of like a poetry video with like different people in the community kind of like saying different things. Like this is an idea that I'm going to do. And I'm like, here's your script, here's your line, say these lines, send me the video, I'll create your avatar. And then we'll kind of create like this like montage. And then like for it to be kind of like this uncanny valley kind of thing where it's just like, whoa, like this like like what's going on here? Like this is like kind of like peering into this like higher dimensional realm, and it's coming down into our space through art. So, you know, like art is always has been and will continue to be like a way for spirit to speak into this world.
Yeah.
And whether it's
Absolutely.
pen on paper, whether it's paintbrush on canvas, or whether it's AI art tools, it's, you know, we are spirit, we are consciousness. And so when we're working with the tools that we got, it just, again, it becomes very exciting, where it's just like, whoa, like, you know, like how does consciousness want to express itself through this technology? And regardless of what other people are doing, like let them kind of like play around in the waters in the way that they feel called. I can't control their ethics, but I can move forward with it, you know, in a way that's in alignment with my own virtues, while still staying focused on like the intention of why I'm doing this. And again, we're doing it to build community, we're doing it to empower, to inspire, to tell bigger stories, and to shift consciousness. So
Yeah.
again, it's
Love
really cool
it.
to get your feedback on this.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
I was
huge.
fortunate to be part of GATE, Global Alliance of Transformational Entertainment, and be part of these symposiums and these amazing, you know, the intentionality in GATE. I don't think much is going on with GATE at this point. But that was, I don't know if you're familiar with GATE, but that was Jim Carrey, Eckhart Tolle, and a guy named
Kyle.
Kyle Cease had been the MC. But it was that very conversation of how do we translate, you know, through entertainment portals, through the artistry of creators to tell mythic, epic stories. And that's exactly what you're bridging into, Brandon, is that this portal of creation, that AI, you know, nothing. And if you have the concept something's happening to me, you're misguided, because nothing happens to us. Everything happens through us individually and collectively.
Yeah.
And that when you understand how you access AI consciousness, it's going to map around you, and not to be a blind eye to the nefarious beings in the world that could use it for harm. But if you have your own discernment meter online, you're going to be able to navigate through the portals of traps and contracts and agreements that you're not in alignment with. And so, but I just, you know, there's so much here, brother, that we can discuss and go into. Ultimately, our intention was to really honor you as an artist.
Yeah, both of you guys. And I love that you guys work together.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's really, really powerful.
Both you and Lacey, and what you do as a couple. I don't know about you, babe, but I'm knowing I want us to have our own little powers of love avatars that are showing up through the lens, lens of Brendan and Ascension Portraits that we're going to be doing. So I just definitely encourage, we put, you know, you can go to Ascension Portraits on Instagram, find out more about the work that they're doing and how to really cultivate your own creation. But don't be afraid to play. This is the divine imagination that we're talking about, the creative exploration that we as magical children inside these adult bodies, you know, sometimes we've turned that off and we're afraid of that. And, you know, there's safety in play. There's safety in creative. The Never Ending Story, I often say all the time, is one of my favorite movies. And once we stop using that divine imagination, the great nothing comes and ruins Fantasia. And young, you know, that young child in us is wanting to play in this kind of portal.
So important. And I love that you said just even that a collection, a community of light guardians, understanding the process of really doing our own shadow work and understanding ourselves in a clearer and truer form as protectors of our own inner children and our children growing up, our communities, you know, what this means for the world as it does change, because if it's not in our hands and it's left to hands that have less awareness or consciousness around how a change like this can happen, it's, you know, nature abhors a vacuum. So we know that it is important for us to show up. It is important for us to be aware of the potential here and how powerful of a tool this actually could be. So thank you guys for what you do. Thank you. And congratulations on your baby. And
thank you.
Where can we find you besides on Instagram at Ascension Portraits? Do you have a website that we can go see your work?
Right now, again, for those interested in Ascension Portraits, again, on Instagram, my Facebook profile on Facebook at Brendon Culliton is also a place where people are welcome to direct message me. And if I post something on Instagram, it's usually relayed onto my Facebook. And then through Ascension Portraits, you can also find the link to both Lacey and I's individual Instagrams, which are Mystic Spider-Man and the Paper Druid. And yeah, and again, for anybody, friends of Jason and Michelle who are with us here, or sorry, Heather,
Wait, we're
You
Michael.
did
Dad brain.
Michael and Michelle.
I'll,
Look
I'll,
at
I'll
you.
take I'll take dad brain on that. I don't know. I apologize.
That's
No,
okay.
that's
Wow.
called your eye is seeing the through these skin suits. You see our
Michael.
essence.
There are many names we carry, but what I was just gonna say is, you know, as a special thank you for anybody who's tuned to this broadcast, and this goes for you guys as well. If anybody would like to be able to place an order, just let me know, and I'm more than happy to be able to include some bonus portraits with you guys into your package. And again, you know, each one is kind of done as an intentional session, and so we put a lot of love, a lot of care into it, and especially if you guys are interested in getting like couples portraits and custom character creations, those ones are all, you know, like handcrafted and everything like that. So yeah, I'm excited for more people to find out about this. It's a business that is growing very organically, and we're okay with that. We already got plenty of people who are keeping us busy with orders, and that's super appreciated within the community member support. And it's been really exciting because even within the Lensa stuff happening within the last couple of weeks, it wasn't something where we saw and we're like, oh no, this is competition. Oh no, this is bad news. Like, no, we anticipated it happening. And what's actually been really beautiful is that we've seen people using the discussion related to Lensa and the AI portraits, and they're just like, hey, like, you guys should check out Ascension Portraits. If you guys are interested in this, check out what our friends are doing. And again, rather than putting $8 into an app that may or may not be connected to some sort of like Russian like mob or something like that, who knows, right? You hear like, there's people talking about all sorts of stuff. Why not support a small business, and why not support artists and everything? And again, you know, the way how it supports us is also helping support us in creating even more art. And that's the thing, right? Like, whether we do this forever, who knows? But this is going to be something that's just going to continue to evolve with the technology, and it's our devotion to be able to make sure that each customer is 100% satisfied, and to just kind of like listen to our hearts as we use this technology in alignment with our intention. And then we hope that in doing that, we're inviting others to see the potential of this, and whether they're playing with the technology or just tagging along and being a part of the journey, to be a part of the process of steering it in a good direction, because that's what it needs, right? It needs hands on deck. This is a very powerful ship, and when left without anybody steering it, like, who knows where it will go? It might capsize, this and that and this and that, and you know, we can't control every single aspect of it, but we can control, you know, the intention that we align ourselves and put into work through this technology as well. So I'm excited to come back in a couple months from now, and it'll be completely, you know, the technology will evolve, and again, come back in a year from now, and we'll be like, you know, talking about this through like virtual reality realms and digitized lucid dreaming. And Lacey and I will actually, you know, we won't just be creating Ascension Portraits, we'll be creating entire realms that people can, you know, explore and experience for themselves. Like we'll create dream realms that people can go into, and, you know, stories that they can experience. So yeah, it's been great. I really enjoyed the time in the space, and just so grateful on behalf of myself and Lacey and River for you guys inviting me here. So thank you again.
Thank you.
So if I could just summarize the importance of why we're even doing this, it's important. What's come up through this, and this is a curious, compassionate, conscious conversation instead of a critical, condemning, cutting out this us and them conversation. And that's really my invitation to all of the listeners here, is that something that you're uncomfortable. We're in a polarization time, and we're seeing lines in the sand between us and them, and that's really dangerous. And so it's that place, before you project your own belief system onto somebody else, be curious, you know, compassionately connect to them. If you've got a concern, then send them a message. You know, I would appreciate it at the time, you know, compassionate conversations about this, not assumptions of I'm on a dark path. So and this is just about this and everything else. You know, liberating life through relationship. This is what this podcast is about. How do we have a relationship with ourselves, with the God of our understanding, and with the community and life at large, and with the evolution of where we're going? You know, we are shifting a paradigm. We are shifting an evolutionary process. So
these conversations,
process, as they say in Canada,
right? These conversations are vital, and we're really excited. We want to have you back, both of you, and you know, as this progresses, and just touch in and see kind of where things are going, because I think you're a really critical pulse on what's happening in this arena. So
we love you, brother. Thank you for your time.
Thank you guys so much. Until next time. So we'll see you guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.